as we continue to preview free agency and give you a look at some of the positions of need potentially for the Buffalo Bills, we take a look at a group that did a lot better in 2019 but can still improve in 2020. We take a look at the offensive line. Welcome to Billievers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this free agency preview edition of Billievers Talk, where we take a look at the position groups coming up on free agency that might be of interest to the Buffalo Bills and ask ourselves, are the Buffalo Bills really going to look here? And who are they looking at in these position groups? Again, guys, my name is Joe. If you're new to the channel, guys, first of all, thank you for joining me on Billievers Talk. If you are a fan of Buffalo sports, whether it be the Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Sabres, or any of the Buffalo teams, you want to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and after you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell. Notifies you when we post new content. With free agency just around the corner, guys, the content is going to be constant on this channel. Have had 2 days in a row of breaking news, so you know that we are going to keep you up to date. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so YouTube can notify you when we post new content. So we want to talk about the offensive line today. And guys, remember, after this video, leave a comment. Tell me what you think about the Buffalo Bills offensive line. And listen, between 2018 and 2019, I will agree there was a great improvement on our offensive line. But was that good enough, right? We saw this team go to 10-6 last season, make it to the playoffs, lose in the wild card round, had a decent offensive line, but it can get better, guys. Let me read to you our starting offensive line last season for the most part, what we had on our offensive line to start things off. Left tackle, you had Deion Dawkins. Left guard, you had Quentin Spain. Center was Mitch Morrison. We know he had some injuries throughout the season. Right guard was John Feliciano, and right tackle was Cody Ford, but we know that he was switching with Ty Nsekhe a bunch. But those were your 5 main starters once Ty Nsekhe got hurt as well. Are those the guys that you want starting next year on the offensive line? Now, remember, last year we switched out basically a whole offensive line. The only player that remained from the year previous was Deion Dawkins. So we had 4 new offensive line starters out of the 5 positions. So do we want to go through that type of transition again? No. But does that mean we shouldn't try to get better? I don't think that's what it means. I think that if you break this down, we have a possibility here for some new starters on this offensive line group. So again, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think we need to add offensive line pieces, or do you think now we're set with those 5? You put some depth in there. You might get Ty Nsekhe back. You might talk about Le'Veon Waddle, which we'll talk about later in this episode. You have some options to fill in on that offensive line. Spencer Long just got re-signed, or we signed his option, I believe it was. So you have some options to add depth, and maybe if you have some rotational depth, that could solve some of the issues, some of the burdens on the offensive line that we end up running into last season. And you might be right, but I think whenever you have a chance to improve as a team, you should take it. You shouldn't be telling yourself, oh, we improved the offensive line so much last year, we're not going to improve it again this year. Again, I like the pieces that they put in place last year. I like to see the offensive line improvement, guys, but I want to see continued improvement. Again, PFF ranked this offensive line 21st in the NFL last season, which again was a big upgrade from 29th the season before that. And if we move up 8 more spots, obviously we'll be doing a lot better then, but still room for improvement. So what I did here was I ranked the starting offensive linemen last year for the Buffalo Bills, but I did not rank them by who did the best, who did the worst. I didn't do that. I ranked them by who I think is going to be starting for the Buffalo Bills next season to who I think the Buffalo Bills might be replacing before the season starts. And this includes contract numbers, right? You got to look at that contract and say, hey, are the Buffalo Bills really going to consider either A, replacing this person, or B, making him a replacement player, or C, removing him from the team altogether? So that goes into account, right? His performance on the field, of course, goes into account, but you got to look at both of those in a nutshell and say, hey, what are the chances that this guy is our starting offensive lineman come next season. So again, I ranked them one through five. Let me know if you disagree with my list here. So first is Mitch Morse, right? Center. I think we signed him to a big deal last year in free agency. I think, barring injury, he will be our starting center next year, and I really look forward to it. I think he had some really good performances last season. Really does a good job getting to that second level, opening up some holes for the running back. So I would love to see him full health next season and completely stay in full health all next season. But I do believe Mitch Morse would be our center next season. Second on this list is going to be Cody Ford. You just signed this guy, second round pick last season. You traded it up to get Cody Ford. I think that means that you have to start him next season. Now, I will point out in this video, we're going to talk about differences with the position Cody Ford plays. I think that Cody Ford could be a right tackle. Right tackle. I think you can potentially move him to right guard. If you've watched this channel in the past, I think now that we've made our bed and made Cody Ford a right tackle, we need to stick to it. But that's just my opinion. The coaching staff might think something different. And coming into the draft last season, a lot of people thought Cody Ford was going to be a guard in the NFL. Maybe that's where the Bills coaching staff thinks he fits best. And maybe we pick up a right tackle, move him to right guard. Who knows? Or maybe we're happy with the right tackle position the way it is. Third on my list is Dion Dawkins. I think Dion Dawkins had a pretty solid year last season. I think he's proven enough to be the starter for the Buffalo Bills at left tackle come next season. Fourth on the list is a guy that I really like, but I like him for his versatility. And when you have a guy that has good versatility, maybe he's best left as a guy on the bench, coming in off the bench when someone goes down, right? And that's Jon Feliciano. I'm a huge fan of Jon Feliciano. I think that was an underrated pickup from last season. I think he was probably one of the outstanding stars for the Buffalo Bills last year on offense. I'm not saying anything against Jon Feliciano here. I think he's a great player. I think he earned his role on the starting offensive line. But when we talk about a guy that can play right guard or left guard or center, someone who's a little more versatile, you want him as your backup sometimes because A, that opens up some more spaces on your 53-man roster if you're able to plug and play Jon Feliciano at any one of those three positions, and B, it gives you more options as a head coach. So I think that opens up a lot of possibilities for Jon Feliciano. And then my fifth possibility is Quinton Spain. We know that Quinton Spain is hitting the free agent market, so it's not certain that he'll even come back to Buffalo. But if he does come back to Buffalo, I'm not sure if we're going to see him in that left guard spot or if we're going to see him again maybe in a rotational role. We'll wait and see. We know that Quinton Spain's talking up the fact they did not allow a sack last season, and that's great. And I wouldn't mind seeing Quinton Spain back, but this is my top five offensive linemen or starting offensive linemen from last season, and I ranked them in chances that they'll be a starter for the Buffalo Bills next season. Again, first Mitch Morse, second Cody Ford, 3 Dion Dawkins, 4 Jon Feliciano, and 5 Quinton Spain. Again, I'm not saying that's how I feel like they did last season. I'm saying that is the possibility that they will be a starter for the Buffalo Bills this season. So let me know in the comment section if you agree or disagree with my ranking of those 5 players. So when you look at the ranking, you look at who are the last 2 on my list. That's Jon Feliciano and Quinton Spain. Well, those are the 2 guys that played guard for the Buffalo Bills last season. You had Quinton Spain at left guard, you had Jon Feliciano at right guard for a lot of the 2019 NFL season for the Buffalo Bills. So, obviously, I think that if we're going to address anything in this offseason, it's going to be guard. But remember what I said earlier. It's very possible that the Buffalo Bills can pick up a tackle and then move Cody Ford to guard, which is where he was initially supposed to play coming out of the draft, according to a lot of experts last season. So if he wasn't impressive enough at tackle, right? If the Buffalo Bills coaching staff says, you know what, we like you, we want you to be a starter on this offensive line, but maybe we need to move you to guard. I hope that Cody Ford takes that all in stride and says, I'm going to do whatever it takes to help this team win. And, he's able to perform at a high level like he did in college and like he proved he could do at times last season. I thought there were times last season where Cody Ford played really well, but I also thought there were times last season where Cody Ford could have definitely played better. So especially earlier in the season. But let's say we take a look at the right tackle position. There are a couple right tackles that I'm looking at and say, man, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have this guy on the Buffalo Bills, and it would improve that offensive line. So right now I'm looking at this offensive line for the Buffalo Bills, and I have 3 starters, right? That I'm definitely sure that we're going to have next season. Mitch Morse, Cody Ford, Deion Dawkins. Those are going to be our starters next season. Now with Cody Ford, he can move from right tackle to right guard. And so I have three, even though I have three players, I really only have two positions locked down. So we have to work a little bit on the other positions. So let's start with the right tackle position. Again, there are some names here that I want to talk about. We're going to start with the guy that's currently in Buffalo. That's going to be a free agent, but maybe he's going to re-sign with Buffalo. A rotational player for most of his career, 32 NFL starts. That's the Adrian Waddle, 31 career NFL starts. Adrian Waddle was with the Buffalo Bills last season. We signed him during free agency. However, due to a torn quad that he suffered in August in a preseason scrimmage, he was out for the season with a torn quad. So we really didn't get to see what we had in Adrian Waddle. I know that a lot of people are a fan of Adrian Waddle and his wife, who is huge on social media. So there are the possibilities of Buffalo bringing back Adrian Waddle. Adrian Waddle played with the Patriots prior to coming to Buffalo, and he did start in 3 games in 2018 at right tackle, played in all 16. So we've seen him in a rotational role before, but now with that injury, you do have to question, is he someone that you want to bring back to the Buffalo Bills? Will he help this team if you have him as a rotational player? Maybe you could have Adrian Waddle and Ty Nsekhe, who was rotating last year, rotate at right tackle, move Cody Ford to right guard still. Something like that may work out to the Buffalo Bills' benefit. Or you can have Adrian Waddle rotate with Cody Ford at right tackle and still pick up one of the guards that we're going to talk about later, and then maybe that leaves Ty Nsekhe on the outside looking in. Those are all possibilities for this Buffalo Bills team. Another right tackle that I would have in mind, these next 2 guys are studs, and they would get paid like that. So you do have to look at how much we would pay them. Now we have the salary cap to pay these guys, but the problem becomes you can't afford too many of these players before you run out of money. We all know that we want to re-sign Tre'Davious White. We all know that there are other players like Poyer and others that we will have to re-sign in the near future, Milano and some other players. But if you can afford to bring in one of these guys, really help out the offensive line, give Josh Allen time, bring in a star wide receiver in the draft, maybe even pick up a wide receiver in free agency, this might be what the Buffalo Bills need to improve that offensive line, give Josh Allen more time to find open receivers downfield, and make this offense just a little more explosive. So the first guy on my list is Brian Bulaga, formerly of the Green Bay Packers, played in all 16 games last season. 84% of the snaps for the Packers, had 6 penalties last year, 4 sacks allowed. So you want to see that improve, obviously, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan and you do pick him up. But he is one of the better guards, or right tackles, out there in free agency. SpotTrack has his market value at $10.8 million a season. 9-year veteran, formerly out of Iowa. That's where he went to college. So those are some stats for Brian Bulaga. Wouldn't mind seeing him come in at right tackle, move Cody Ford to right guard, and then you just have to worry about that left guard position. Maybe that's where you put John Feliciano. Maybe you bring back Quentin Spain, still put him there. There's still options at that left guard position. Another tackle that I like is Jack Conklin out of Tennessee. Played in 94% of snaps last year, guys. So you know that he's on the field. 16 games last season, 7 penalties, 4 sacks allowed. This guy has been dominant in the past. Unfortunately, 2018, he suffered a season-ending injury. And so maybe in 2019, he was still coming back from that a little bit, right? You all have heard before that sometimes it takes 2 seasons to fully get healthy from an injury like an ACL tear. So maybe last year was just his first year back. If you go back to his rookie season, he was a dominant right tackle, and maybe he'll go back to that form. So look at Jack Conklin and Brian Bulaga if we don't re-sign Adrian Waddle at the right tackle position. But again, guys, right tackle works if you bring Cody Ford in at guard. What if you want to leave Cody Ford at tackle? What are the guards that you might want to look at and say, hey, these guys can help the Buffalo Bills succeed right now? And again, I don't want to hear the argument of, oh, we moved 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen last year. It took us a while to develop. Listen, if we can get better, that's all that matters, is the Buffalo Bills getting better. you have all preseason, you have all training camp to get together, to get your assignments correct, to do that kind of thing. We saw in that first game of the season last year between Mitch Morse and Josh Allen, had some trouble with snaps, right? They had 2 bad snaps that ended up in fumbles. Well, what happened the rest of the season? They seemed to work it out, and as the season went on, they seemed to get better and better and better. So that's going to happen as part of the growing pains, but I believe that Mitch Morse was a much better center than whoever we had at center in 2018. You'll let me know in the comment section who that was. I'm sure I'd remember if I went to think about Bodine, I believe. But you got to think about what's better for the team. And what's better for the team is getting better players sometimes. Getting better players who will give your quarterback time in the pocket to throw the ball downfield. Everyone wants a star wide receiver. Doesn't matter how great the wide receivers are if you don't have time to throw the ball. So let's take a look at the guard position, because again, we could leave Cody Ford at right tackle and just maybe switch out the guard position, especially if we don't re-sign Quinton Spain and we let him walk. Then you're looking at that guard position saying, hey, we need some help there. Again, I like John Feliciano a lot. Maybe you have him move to left guard, bring one of these other guys to play right guard, or maybe one of these guys play left guard too. And the first guy I'm thinking of, one of the best guards on the market, if not the best guard coming into free agency, can play both left and right guard, and that's Joe Thuney out of New England. Played for the New England Patriots last season, has played for the New England Patriots for I think 5 seasons now, was there for their Super Bowl runs just a few years ago. Last year he played in 99.1% of snaps. In fact, in the last 4 seasons he has played for at least 99% of the snaps in every season, including 2018 when he played in 100% of the Patriots snaps. Guys, if the best ability is availability, this guy has it. That's Joe Thuney from the Patriots. He's, again, can be played at either right or left guard. According to Spot Track, looking at his market value, he is set to become the highest paid guard in the NFL, and this guy might deserve it. And who better to shell out that money than the Buffalo Bills, who have over $80 million in salary cap money? This would be a great way to spend some of that money, getting a great offensive guard. Again, last season you're talking no penalties, not a single penalty. Played 99.1% snaps and didn't have a single penalty. He didn't hold because he was tired. He didn't do anything like that, and only 1 sack allowed. I mean, let me repeat those numbers. 99.1% of snaps played, 0 penalties. Can you imagine? Can you imagine someone on the Bills offensive line not committing penalties, knowing that you're going to go to the offensive line and say, hey, we're not going to get a false start this time? There were times during the NFL season last year where the Buffalo Bills led the league in pre-snap penalties. This would help prevent that. And again, 99.1% of snaps last season, only 1 sack allowed. Now, some of you can say, hey, that's because he plays for Tom Brady, a guy who is notorious for getting the ball out of his hand quickly, and I agree with you. But there still are times where Tom Brady did not look that good last season, but this guy really saved Tom Brady from hitting the dirt a lot more than he could have if he didn't have Joe Thuney at guard. I'm really liking Joe Thuney. Formerly from New England, to help out that guard position for the Buffalo Bills. So let's say we don't pick up Joe Thuney, a guy who, again, is going to be the highest paid guard in the NFL. Maybe we don't want to shell out that kind of money. Maybe Brandon Beane, Coach McDermott don't want to shell out that kind of money for the offensive line. Although I would argue offensive and defensive line is where you want to spend the bulk of your money. But let's go down the guard list and add one more name. If you want to keep Cody Ford at tackle, you bring in another guard. You bring in Brandon Scherff, formerly of Washington. Now, the problem with this guy is he has been injury prone the past few seasons. In fact, in the last 3 seasons, he has actually missed 15 games. So he's missed 15 out of the last 48 games. But when this guy is on the field, when this guy is healthy, he is one of the best guards in the NFL. And he proved that 4 years ago, his rookie season. He proved that he could be that dominant of a guard. Now, again, the injuries are a concern. But what does that concern get you? A lower price tag, right? It means you're going to be paying less for a guy that you could be spending a lot more on if he was healthy more often. And this guy played in Washington, okay? And I'm not trying to knock Washington, but there have been a lot of players that come from Washington who have been injury prone while at Washington, who have left and then had no injury issues to speak of after that. So maybe that's something in the water down Washington. Maybe there's something with the training staff down there. But we've seen the past couple seasons, the Washington Redskins have been decimated with injuries. And then again, players leave, and it doesn't happen as often as teams fear. Spot Track has the market value for Brandon Scherf as $12.4 million. He had 9 penalties last year, only 1 sack allowed. So maybe a little bit more of an issue with the penalties, but less with the sacks. Still a pretty good number. They're only allowing 1 sack, even though he only played in 68% of snaps. Not a bad number there at all. So those are 2 guards I'm looking at. Those are some of the tackles that I'm looking at this year in free agency. Again, guys, let me know what you think. Do you think the Buffalo Bills need to use maybe a draft pick or pick up a free agent offensive line? Or do you like the offensive line the way it is? Again, maybe pick back up Adrian Waddle. Then you have the offensive line that you wanted going into last season. Because remember, in the offseason, guys, last year, the Buffalo Bills got decimated at that offensive line. It was a good thing we spent so much time on the offensive line because, man, there were a lot of injuries heading into the season. You talk about Mitch Morse's concussion, talk about Adrian Waddle here, talk about some other players that got hurt along the way as well. So maybe you're just like, hey, bring that whole squad back. Let's see what happens. Or do you think Cody Ford needs to move into guard, or do you like him still at tackle? And do you like one of the names that I just gave, or do you like another name heading into free agency? Again, guys, let me know in the comment section. Hit that thumbs up button. Really helps out the channel. I do appreciate it. And again, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills sports. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, links in the description below. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.